You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 117. What is a marketing plan? How do you create one? How do you get your content in front of the right audience? In fact, how do you even find your ideal client? There are so many questions, and today we get some answers. So if you are feeling stuck with your social media, newsletter, and all-around marketing efforts, today's episode is for you. So without further ado, let's jump on in. Hey there, I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, and I am passionate about doing the inner work needed to reach your goals. Let me be your guide as we navigate all the fears and insecurities that surface when it's time to step outside of your comfort zone. Along with my knowledgeable guests and industry experts, I'm here to teach you how to reawaken your life purpose and passion and create the steps to turn your intentions into action. Ultimately, my goal is to empower you to rise above those blocks holding you back and start living a life that you are worthy and deserving of. So come on, it's time to slow down, find a comfy spot with your favorite organic tea, and get inspired. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Unplugged podcast. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Costa, founder and CEO of The Wellness Marketer. She's a nutritional scientist turned marketing pro who helps wellpreneurs grow their business online using holistic marketing strategies. She has 2 science degrees and has been working with health professionals for the last 3 years to help them establish businesses, grow on Instagram, and finally gain the confidence to market themselves online. Now, this is just I love it so much because these are all the areas that we need help in. And I'm just so excited to dive into this with you and learn all about your story and your advice. But before we start, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about you personally.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. So as mentioned, my name is Costa. I am born and raised in Mississauga, Ontario, but currently also on an adventure of home ownership and renovating a home. So I just moved out to Cambridge, Ontario, and where I work from home and run The Wellness Marketer, which, as mentioned, I've been doing that for a couple of years now, but just recently transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship. Well, not even that recently now. I guess it was July 2020. July 15th was my first day of being a full-time entrepreneur, and I have just been absolutely loving it. Basically that's what else is there to do in the times of coronavirus? I'm like literally just working all the time on my business, working on my house, and going for my daily walks and praying for the day that we can travel again, because travel is like my favorite thing to do when I'm not working, and currently traveling by reading because I'm also a huge bookworm and book nerd. So my Kindle was my favorite Christmas gifts this year, and I've been reading like 3 books at once, and so I've been reading lots of books and dreaming about all the places that I could be.
I feel like we're the same. I do the same thing. There's nothing else to do, so you might as well be working, right?
It's the Enneagram 3 in me.
I'm an Enneagram 3 as well. I think it is 3 or 1. Now I forget. It's 1 or 3. But I tied them both.
Is 3 is the overachiever or the achiever, not the overachiever, but we're usually overachievers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but that's me.
All right, well, I could dive into that quite a bit, but I know that there's a lot of juice that we want to get into for this interview, so let's just dive into it. Let's go back in time. So what was your experience leading up to last year, July 15th, when you went full-time with your business? And then how did the idea for your business come to be?
Totally. I'm so excited to answer this because it's a bit of a longer journey. If we go back to the very first time that I, traded a good or service for money, that would be back when I was like 7 years old and wanted to start lemonade stands. And I was literally like, we would cost out, like I would ask my mom to help me cost out. Like, what does it cost if we buy the frozen lemonade? versus the bottled lemonade, and which one is going to make us more money. And then I would start to cut my lemonade with juice so I could stretch profit margin. And that, sorry, with water, um, literally so that we could have more juice to sell. And that's when I knew that I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And like, honestly, from there, I just like always had stuff on the go. I like tried to become a dog walker. I tried to become a babysitter. I tried to become like the in-house chef for my family, like, and charge them to cook them meals. Like, I was
Oh my God.
literally always looking for a way to make my own money, like as a child. And but the real entrepreneurship, I like to say, started when I was in university. So you briefly mentioned I have 2 science degrees. So I just super was into science and like math and nutrition, well-being. When I was like in high school, I was a competitive cheerleader for 7 years, and like did that pretty competitively, like went to the world championships and stuff. We never won, but it's kind of like the Olympics of cheerleading. So I was pretty like high performance athlete, and from there, like that's when I got my interest in like the nutrition and wellness field. So then I basically, it was time to go to university, and I was looking for what the heck I wanted to do. Found a cool science degree out of the University of Guelph that blended nutrition and health science. And I ended up staying there for 5 years, doing my undergrad and my master's degree in human health and nutrition back to back. And while I was in my undergrad, actually, I kind of jumped ahead there, but the nature of this program, it was nutrition and nutraceutical science, which is just like a fancy word for health products and supplements. Like a nutraceutical, like, a pharmaceutical would be for drugs, and nutraceutical is supplements. And so I did that in school, and it was super niche, weird program, like literally 30 people in my entire program. But we learned how to develop products and like how the regulations worked in Canada and about nutrition science. And basically we were in this 3rd-year class, a product development class, and we had the task of bringing a product to life from idea to prototype, and, as well as managing like the regulations and the science aspect of it. So my friends and I started, did this project. It ended up getting really great feedback. And then my best friend and I, who were in the group, we decided to basically turn it into a business, or explore turning it into a business. And what ended up happening is we started my first legit business, which was Linz and Katie. She was the Linz to my Katie, and we made small batch personal care products. And we had there was a grant from the government to basically run the business in the summertime full time. So like we secured some funding like for the startup, and ran that for about 2 years. Like, didn't make any like crazy money, but it was an amazing experience. Had like a registered incorporation. We were in a couple of like local stores and had our own e-commerce store, and about 1,000 people in our community on Instagram, and a YouTube channel, and it was like a whole thing, and it was amazing. And that's basically how I learned to market my business, because I was in charge of learning how to build that website and do the social media, and like, because I had enjoyed it at the time. But basically from there, and like putting that business out there, I started having people in my network approach me asking for, who did your website, or how do you guys do this on social media, and just asking for advice. And like being in the health and wellness space, those were the people who were asking me. So like naturopathic doctors in my network, and like my peers who had gone on to nutrition school, for example, and like wanted to actually become a nutritionist, because that's not what my program was. It was like a very sciencey program, not to be a practitioner. So just wanted to like separate the two. And yeah, from there I was like, oh wow, people actually need help with this, and I'm pretty good at it. And from there I just started helping one person, and one person asked them, who built your website, who helped you with your social media, and it literally just grew so organically, word of mouth. So then after we had closed down Linz and Katie, because it got to the point where we were starting our master's degree, we both did the same master's together at the same school. And we were also roommates, so it was super cool. But we we were like, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to like go to a distributor, a manufacturer, like, and scale this operation, because like my roommate, like, you know, in between finals, we're like legit mixing batches of charcoal toothpaste, like on our kitchen table. And like, but it was a legit operation, but literally just in between, like I said, exams and getting degrees. And it was just too much for all of us for the two of us to do it all on our own. So we decided to lay that biz baby to rest, as we say, for the time being. We have plans to revive it in the future in like a adult version and with manufacturers and all the things. So hopefully one day that will still happen. But when I started my master's, we had basically shut down that business, and I had this kind of word of mouth thing growing where I was basically just doing consultancy and mostly branding work, honestly. And from there, like I said, it just started growing. And then in 2019, January 2019, I was like, I'm going to register this to be an actual business. White Oak Creative Co. was born, which was my branding agency. I did that for about 10 months, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a branding agency. I have this amazing personality, and I want to, you know, build a brand where I am the face of my brand, and I want to educate people and like not just be an agency. So I came up with the wellness marketer. I swear it literally just like came to me. I was like, I don't want to be a business. I want to be me. And you know, like find that brand name that just like sticks. And I'm like, who am I as a brand? And it was like the wellness marketer. And I was like, that's it. I'm like, we're changing it. And from there, I became the wellness marketer and shifted. I still run a small marketing agency alongside like the education and, you know, other work that I do as the wellness marketer. But that's basically brought us to present day. That was about, well, that would have been in 2019 that I like became the wellness marketer. And then I was in a full-time job until that point. It was all very fast. So like if you're confused, it's because I'm not explaining all the overlap happening. Like I started the business in university and then started my second degree and then started my second business at the same time. But then I also got my full-time job before I was even done school. And so at one point I was working full-time, finishing my master's and running my business. And then slowly the school ended and then my work contract ended, and that brought us to July. And so now we're here and we're just doing the wellness marketer, and it's so much better to not be doing 20 things at once. But it was literally such a journey, so many twists and turns. But I'm so happy it brought me here because it's exactly where I'm supposed to be.
That's quite the journey, but I love that you went through all that so that you could figure out exactly what you wanted. You know, you started at one point, which was the catalyst that got you to where you are today. So you had to go through that process and that journey to figure out what your true purpose was.
Yeah, like multiple iterations of myself, multiple iterations of the business, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did you struggle with most when you were creating and growing your current business?
Totally. I think the biggest one for me, like that came to mind immediately, was around undercharging and like feeling resentful that I was working all the time, because we start businesses because we want to, you know, work for ourselves. We want more freedom. We want to make, you know, have freedom over the amount of money that we can make. But I found myself in this cycle of working with clients that, you know, I was basically doing more than what I said I over delivering, undercharging, and basically just, yeah, overworking, like working all the time. And I had no money to outsource anything because I was undercharging, had no profit margins. And it was really a hard time, like, because you're so passionate and you want this thing to work and you're like, I'm working so hard, why isn't it working? But it honestly, it came back to undercharging and being able to say, like, you know, I had those limiting beliefs of like, who am I to charge this much? People won't pay for that. You know, like, I don't have enough experience. Like I just started, I can't pay, like charge a premium price like that. But ultimately, when I did step into my worth around pricing and charge what I wanted to charge, a lot of my problems went away.
That's insane. Now, a lot of people experience this. I mean, even I experience this to this day. And I'm just like, who am I to be charging this money? Like, I see similar programs that might not even be the exact same, and the amount of detail that I put into it, charging way less. And I'm like, nobody's going to want to buy this because mine's too expensive. They can go out and get it at this price. I need to lower my price so that I'm more competitive. What if it's not valuable enough? What if people get upset after the fact? Like, who am I to be teaching them? Like, the millions of thoughts that you get in your head when you start entering that zone of now you have to charge for your services or your products, it's insane.
Thanks, Jessica. I am so happy that you brought that up because so often we're comparing our programs, our products, our services to other people's, like our customers, our clients are comparing, our courses. And buying a course or a coaching offer is not like buying a fridge. Like, they are not your ideal clients, your followers. If they see your course, they're not going to Google it and look for your competitors and be like, oh, well, this person's offering something kind of similar at a cheaper cost. That's just not the way that people shop for these sort of things. So it gives you, like, I'm giving you full permission, if you haven't already had it, to like release the feeling of like comparing to other people and like your products and services, because like you're unique. People are paying for your unique perspective and energy and experience around this thing. And yeah, it literally has nothing to do with what anyone else is offering.
I love that. Now, what key learnings did you have when you were creating your business?
Ooh, okay. A couple of big ones here too. The first one being start before you're ready. I know so many people want to have the website up, start the Instagram with at least, a common one I see is like 12 posts or 9 posts. They just think that they have, whatever it is, the feeling that you have to have something done before you can take the next step. And I just want you to know that you will never feel ready. There will always feel like this massive resistance because it's scary when you put yourself out there, especially for the first time, especially if it's your first business. Like, there's so many unknowns and like, we're a beginner, right? Like, who likes sucking at things? No one. Like, we all want to be good at the things that we do, but the fact is, like, you can be a beginner at business, and that like has to be okay. And the best way for you to learn is to actually take those steps forward and to start doing the things, even though you don't have a website, even though you've never worked with a client. But taking that first step, regardless of whether or not you think you're ready, is going to provide so much clarity, because what you think you want is like not always what you want once you start doing the thing. Like, I started a branding agency. I sat on that for months, created a website, invested in expensive ass business cards, did all the things that like as a marketer, like I was taught to do to market a business. But a few months later, literally here we are, and like I'm changing my business name completely, which means that my website is basically void. My business cards thrown out, like, all of these things, genuinely, like the time, effort, money just genuinely goes to waste.
Mm-hmm.
And not to like scare people, but I'm like a very straight up person, and like that's just the reality of the situation. Like, things change, like your business will change, and like, yeah, just don't be ready. Don't You'll never be ready, so don't wait until you're ready. Don't be ready.
Mm-hmm.
You can never be ready. But that would be the first key learning. Like, I genuinely just learned so much by like closing my eyes and being like, okay, we're just gonna jump now. And I did it. But then the second key learning is to really focus on what you want, what you really want to do, and not what you think that you should do. Especially as a new business owner, like there's these feelings of like guilt and shame, of like, like you were saying, who am I to do this? Who am I to charge this much? Like, all of these limiting beliefs. And then we can put ourselves in these boxes that's like, yeah, I'm doing this thing because this is what I think I'm worthy of, or this is what I think will sell. Instead of like it coming from a place of, what do I genuinely want to do? And this could be, what do you want to do day to day in your business? Because if you don't like Instagram and you don't want to be on Instagram, you don't have to use Instagram. like genuinely. Like you don't have to do that. And so creating a business that actually feels good, for me was around figuring out what I wanted to do day to day, but also as like my mission, my vision for the business, like what kind of business I wanted to operate 3 to 5 years down the road. And I knew I didn't want to operate an agency. And that's where like that shift came into like becoming an online educator, even though I didn't have the audience, I didn't have whatever. I thought I could only run an agency because like I didn't have, yeah, the influence to be an educator. Um, but turns out you do.
Mhm. Those are such great learnings. And I love the fact that you said, start before you're ready because no one's ready, right? Like, not even like the successful people out there that have like millions of followers, they are constantly stepping into zones that they aren't familiar with and they don't feel completely ready either. You're never going to know everything, right? Like, there's always new to learn. So just jump, just take that leap.
Yes.
Love that. Now, the wellness marketer. So I want to get into this.
Mhm.
What exactly is holistic marketing? And then how do you create a holistic marketing plan?
Totally. So holistic marketing is actually not a term that I coined by any means. It is a thing in the marketing world, but it's not very common. So as the wellness marketer, I am the wellness marketer because of my background in health and wellness, and I truly have like I can see marketing through that unique lens of the industry because I lived it and I did it. But when it comes down to holistic marketing, the definition of marketing, I'm going to start there. Marketing in general is just any activities that you are doing to get your business out there so that people can know about you, know about what you do. And the objective is to attract people and to get them interested in what you do. That's marketing.
Mm.
But marketing can also have all of these different channels, right? Like Instagram marketing and email marketing, and advertising is also a subset of marketing, and print marketing, right? Like those things that you see in your mailbox, little printouts from people's coupons from their businesses. That's print marketing. And so as a business, creating your marketing plan is a very unique process, right? You're basically picking what marketing channels you want to use to help you spread the word of, for your business, about your business. But holistic marketing, on the other hand, sees basically each of these channels as part of one bigger system. So as opposed to marketing, it's like this is the objective and here's all of these separate channels. Holistic marketing is how do we make all of the channels work together towards the common goal and see them, yeah, as a system as opposed to these separate things. So for myself, creating a holistic marketing plan, because all of the channels are basically working together to help you achieve your business outcomes. It sounds redundant, but honestly, the first step of any marketing plan, holistic or not, like is to identify your business goals. And these goals need to be measurable. I personally like to use the goal of, sales, obviously, but also calls booked, because for me, that's how I mostly make sales in my business. So having a metric, a tangible metric before you start any marketing is so, so key, because how can you tell if you're going to be successful or not? And then if you don't have a clear goal, how can you point basically like your marketing machine, right? Like you can't point it towards the goal if you don't have a goal. So yeah, don't skip over that. Don't think it's fluff. If you're resisting it, it's probably because you don't actually know what your business goals are, and you should dive deeper into it instead of just brushing over it. But after you identify your goals, and let's say I like to have a tangible goal per month. So let's say my goal is to book 5 sales calls a month. That would be my marketing goal. And then from there, you want to identify the marketing channels that you're going to use to promote your business. So for me, I use email marketing, Instagram marketing, and then my website or SEO as my 3 marketing channels. And those 3 work together to book 5 sales calls a month, let's say. And that's kind of like the machine. Then to feed the machine, you want to be publishing new content every week that is working towards the same goal. So, in terms of thinking about what kind of content should I be posting, what does your audience have to know or believe for them to take you up on your offer? That's the question that you have to answer, because everyone's audience is starting in a different place. And yes, you're going to have people within your audience that are even, even more diverse, that are in different stages themselves. And so if you're like, well, people are in different stages, what do I do? Just think about the majority. Okay, and I would even start a few steps back, because it's okay if, people who've, let's say, already taken step 1 and 2, it's okay if they hear step 1 and 2 again. But people who are at, step 0, if they don't hear step 1 and 2, and then you're starting on steps 3 and 4, they're going to be totally lost and feel overwhelmed and be like, okay, this thing is like probably just not for me. So that would be kind of like are we at like step number 3? That was 1, 2, 3. Yeah, step number 3. And the next step is to repurpose your content across those platforms or those marketing channels that you've identified earlier. So like I said, for me, it's email marketing, Instagram marketing, and my website. So let's say for my new content every week, I talk about something called premium content, and we'll definitely chat about this later on based on some of the other questions. But premium content is content that is either audio or video. So like podcasting, YouTube, IGTV, you know the drill, but not just posting on Instagram. And I think every single person, if you're running a business, should be posting at least one piece of premium content every week, even if you're just doing Instagram marketing and, that's just like an IGTV. I'm not saying that you have to have 3 or more marketing channels. If you're just starting out, totally just start with one. Just start with Instagram. And basically, if you publish that one piece of premium content every week, you can then repurpose that across the other platforms and basically break it down into other bite-sized content. So, a 10-minute IGTV, you can then break down into 2 or 3 other little posts that, maybe you had a really cool point that you made or a cool quote, like you want to quote yourself. And so the holistic part is like repurposing that content and allowing that to be seen across all of the channels. So what that looks like is like my podcast exists on my website as like a blog feed, but then I also post about my podcast on Instagram. And then I also like send an email with the same podcast or like with an Instagram post that came from my podcast. And you start to kind of just cycle people around your marketing machine is what I call it. And like guiding people from your website to your socials, to your email list, and around and around and around until they end up purchasing from you, basically.
I wish that there was like a pause button and a rewind so that I could be like, all right, everybody, let's just take a pause right here. Let's go grab a notebook and pen, and then let's rewind and just like re-listen to everything you just said. That was amazing.
Thank you. I know it's like a lot. And like this was one of those ones too where I was like, oh, this is a big question and I'm scared I'm going to overwhelm everyone. But I'm like working on a graphic. So hopefully I need to like put this post out there on Instagram, and hopefully it's posted by the time this comes out and we can link it for them, because like once you see a visual of it, you're like, oh.
Make sure you tag me on that so that I can reshare it with everybody.
But yeah, was there anything in particular that you want me to repeat about the holistic marketing before we move on? Because like I know it's a big topic, and I'm happy to like clarify any pieces that were maybe confusing.
I mean, I understood it myself. So I think we'll keep moving on, but the invitation is always open if you want to come back and have like a deep dive into creating a marketing plan.
Yes, totally. Well, I have a download. It's like a digital, no, it's not a download. It's actually a digital product that usually it's like secret. Like you can't find it unless like, it's like an exclusive offer. But it's called the 60-minute marketing plan. And it's like a fill in the blanks thing. And I feel like your audience might really might really enjoy that. So maybe we can chat about popping that in the show notes as well for them.
Yes, definitely. We'll talk about that. All right, the next question. So, you've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of faux pas and maybe some things that they shouldn't be doing. So, what are the biggest mistakes that you see people making today, and then what holds them back the most?
Totally. And I feel like these couple of things I've kind of alluded to or introduced already. So the first biggest mistake is giving up too easily. Like starting a business is hard work. I know like all of the business coaches that you're following on Instagram are like trying to make it look super easy and that like you just don't know this like one secret that like if you knew, your life would be easy. Just like easy like theirs, but it's literally false. There's like it just genuinely takes a little elbow grease and time and like the willingness to keep going when you're not seeing results and pivoting to basically until you find the thing that does work for you. Like I said, the wellness marketer is like technically my third business. And I'm barely 25. So like, like it's not just because you try something doesn't mean it's going to work. And I think there's like, it's the ego, right? Like we see it, we think we're a failure because we didn't get the results we want. But it's like, no, it's just something that didn't work. It means nothing about you, it means nothing about the business. The offer could be amazing. It was maybe, just in the way that you presented it. People didn't connect with that. But like they make the failure or the lack of results mean something about them or their offer. And then they just like take themselves out of the game. Like that's just the easiest way to like lose. Like self-sabotage though, like let's be real. But yeah, that would be the first mistake. So something else I just want to elaborate on is like in marketing, there's a rule of thumb that the average person needs 7 to 12 touch points with you before they ever purchase from you or make a decision. So whether that's a yes or a no. So when you put that into, Instagram speak, 7 to 12 touch points. Wow. That means they have to hear about your offer 7 to 12 times before they ever take the next step. So like 7 to 12 is a lot. Like when I think people get discouraged like talking about their program, 2 or 3 times in a week and like they think that they're overselling. But no, baby. Hell no. No one is caring about what you say in the same level that you are. So no one realized that you sold yesterday. Like they just like saw it and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they like kept going. So don't worry. People aren't going to think you're too salesy. And if they do, who gives an F? Because are you allowed to swear on this podcast?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Let it all out.
Because they don't pay your bills. If people care about you being too salesy, then tell them to go follow an influencer and not a small business owner. Like, hello. Like, so sorry. I'm just really passionate about this. Like, you have to not be squirmy around sales. Like, it's the biggest mistake, giving up too easily because the sales, they're like not making the sales. And then they're like, I don't want to make sales. And it's like, sales are fun when you actually are doing it right and you love your product and get over the idea that selling makes you weird or bad. It's just a belief system. It's totally beliefs. Like it's not real. But that would be the biggest mistake / tangent mistake. And then also waiting till they have their ducks in a row. I want to share a quick story because I know we're running out of time. But a quick story about a photographer in my network who I was speaking to. And I asked her, she had taken a break because she has, a full-time job, but she's getting back into it. And I was like, this is amazing. Great work. She's going to shoot some COVID weddings. I'm like, it's going to be amazing. People need you. And I'm like, when are you going to start promoting? And she was like, oh yeah, just like not yet because I have to like finish my website and then I have to do this and I have to like create my new portfolio. And I was like, wait, what? And I'm like, she's like, yeah, like I just need to have that done. And I'm like, you don't actually like need to have that stuff done before you start promoting yourself. And they're like, yeah, but who would hire a photographer who doesn't have a portfolio? And it's like, no, you have a portfolio. You're just telling yourself that you have to have a perfect digital portfolio on a newly branded website before you can even start putting out feelers that you're going to start doing wedding photography again, this year. And she said to me, she was like, no, like cutting me off. Like, no, you don't understand me. Like, it just has to be this way. And I just like had to let out a laugh because it's like, if you hold that belief, you are holding yourself back so much. It is not just you. Everyone feels that way. Everyone feels like they need to have their ducks in a row. And that's why I said the thing I said about not, in the beginning around being ready and like giving that as a piece of advice, because you think that this is a unique thing to you and that's just the way that you are. And it's a lie. It's our ego. We all feel this way. And I couldn't even fathom just like that was like what had come out of her mouth. But it's like what you believe about yourself, like you have the power to change all of your beliefs, right? And like what you believe about yourself will manifest into your reality. So
100%. It's all your mindset. I just love that. All right, so let's keep going. There's just so much I want to cover with you. How do you get your content in front of the right freaking people?
Yeah.
This is a frustration of mine because I'm just like, these people that are following are like acquaintances or like fellow business owners. Are they the right people that are like my ideal client? I don't know. Right? Like, how do you make sure that you're getting your ideal clients in your community?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting your content in front of the right people is actually not super hard. So first things first is you have to be posting content specifically for that audience. So many people are afraid to identify their ideal client or their niche because they think it like turns people away. It's like totally scarcity mindset thing. But if you are someone who has not yet identified who your ideal client is, then you are going to struggle with this. And maybe it's why you are already struggling, because to get your content in front of the right people, you have to know who they are. And contrary to popular belief, age, sex, location, all of these things are important to your ideal client. But what's most important that will group your ideal client together are the common problems that they have or the pain points that they have that you are helping them overcome or solve with your service. So, for example, a nutritionist, right, like who specifically works with people helping them heal their gut. It doesn't matter if their audience is 20 or 50, it's people who have gut issues and who, can't eat what they really want to eat without having adverse reactions. So figuring out who your audience is and the problems that they have, and then posting content around helping them solve those problems that positions you as an expert and says, yeah, hey, I can help you. So number one, most important, if you're not posting the content, there's nothing for them to see, right? And Instagram, it's like so not evergreen at all. So you have to be posting consistently to get that consistent exposure. So that's like another piece. So you have to post the content, but you have to do it consistently. But then there's like other things. But that is like paramount, because hashtags, for example, which is something I want to chat about, hashtags are just a catalyst for good content. And so if you use hashtags on content that isn't going to connect with your ideal clients, then the hashtags aren't going to do anything. So the content is first, and then from there you can add visibility to the content by using hashtags that your ideal client would use. Okay, this is important. Not who you are, because hashtags are about basically showing groups of people content that they want to see. So for example, for myself, I'm targeting wellpreneurs. I'm going to use the nutritionist example again. I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm going to use nutritionist hashtags because that's the hashtags that my audience is following. So when they follow them or check out the posts, that's when I'm basically adding my posts to the mix of new content that they're discovering. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's like a little trick there. But Then there's also just a matter of getting in front of new people, right? Like you were saying, getting in front of the right audience. How do you do that? Is by creating more shareable content as well, and reels, because reels are also being shared a lot into Instagram stories. And by shareable content, I mean when people share your post to their stories, that's how we really expand our reach. And literally, always the posts that do the best for me, that get the best engagement, always end up having the best reach. And almost always they were shared by multiple people, if not like my most shared posts. So those are my best tips for you in terms of getting in front of the right people.
Oh, amazing. I love that. I am still trying to get reels on my damn Instagram business account. So that is like a bone of contention with me.
Oh no. Have you
But
tried switching to a creator account yet?
I have a business account, I think. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to take a look.
Try
Okay.
switching to a creator account because you still have insights, you still have all the things. This is for anyone listening. And this is also if you don't have Instagram music, you can, and you're a business, try switching to a creator account. Leave it for at least 72 hours because I swear to you, there's like some, especially because we're in Canada, there's like weird licensing things. And like even my best friend, the Lynn's to my Katie, she didn't have reels for the longest time. And she actually just created a new account so that she could get reels. And then she did. So Instagram is weird and glitchy, but for many people, the creator account has just opened that up for them because of like the business licensing issues for Canadians, especially.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to try that.
Try it out. Yeah.
All right. So we've talked a lot. I mean, there's been a theme coming up in the answers and the questions that we've been discussing about, and it's like mindset, right? Like a lot of fears, a lot of blocks that come out when you are growing a business, when you are stepping into that uncomfortable zone and starting to promote and sell things. And how have you overcome things that have come up for you? Like, what have you turned to be able to rise above all those blocks?
Yeah. So honestly, belief systems, like working on my beliefs, like identifying what I do believe about myself. And that comes from like journaling, honestly, and like coaching, therapy, like just talking with people. And like when you break down like the thought that you're having, for example, oh, I'm scared to do this, right? I'm scared to show up on Instagram stories. Stop and explore that. Like, what thought is coming up? Are you scared that people are going to judge you, right? Like, are you like, what is actually there? And like, I find it really helps to put pen and paper down and basically just like keep on exploring that thought until you kind of like find the root thought or belief. And from that's honestly just how I've discovered so many things about myself and my belief system. And I do many things to work on my mindset and in terms of like shifting those beliefs. One of them is the choose again method. This is by Gabby Bernstein. Uh, are you familiar with it?
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's pretty badass. But choose again method, guys, is basically when like a thought comes up that's like not good feeling, low vibe. Not to say we can't have low vibe thoughts, but just hear me out. You're like, okay, I don't know if I can, show up today. I don't know if I can do this. When that low vibe thought comes up, acknowledging it, thanking it, but consciously asking yourself if you can choose a better feeling thought. Usually I'm asking myself if this is even true. I'm not sure if that's part of Gabby's thing or if it's just my weird blending of therapy toolkits with like spiritual woo-woo. But asking yourself if that thought is true. And if it's not true, because like it's usually not, like, oh, if I show up on stories, like people are going to call me out because like I'm wrong. Usually it's not true. And then you can consciously choose another thought. And it takes practice, but that is how we slowly start to rewire our brain, is that when we are put in these situations and then, our egos come up with these, putting us on the defense and just like trying to get us to not take action. Basically, that's usually what it's about, keeping us safe where we are. When you can train your brain to see that that's not true and to pick something that's a little bit higher vibe, that feels better, that is more true. Like, if I do show up today, people actually might find this really helpful and someone might end up booking a call with me or something like that. That's a much better feeling thought. And then the point is you do this over and over and over again until reaching for that higher vibrational thought just starts to happen naturally. I also try and meditate every day because I think connecting to our intuition is so important, like especially as women entrepreneurs. Like we are so told in every facet of our lives to like not trust ourselves, act like a lady, blah blah blah. I won't get too deep into the patriarchy, but like so then when we say things to ourselves like I don't know, or does that make sense, or I just can't do this, like all of these things, like we're having these thoughts not because they're true or not because we actually believe them, but because that's just unfortunately like the society that we live in, and that's the messages that we're given. So we have to like actively work against them. And yeah, connecting to your intuition, knowing that you do have the skills, you do have the talent to do this, and not letting your limiting beliefs get in the way. Like I'm kind of going on like a tangent here, so I'm just like gonna I think I made my point. I'm gonna pass it back to you.
Amazing. All right, so maybe we'll end here just because there's like only 5 or so minutes left, and I'm not sure if that's going to give enough time for you to go through the algorithm and all that stuff. So maybe we'll like stop right now just to give you time.
No, I would love to talk about the algorithm
Yeah?
quickly before we
Okay,
go. Yeah, because
perfect. Okay,
it's actually not that complicated. So I'm happy to explain it in 5 minutes or less. So what is the Instagram algorithm and why is everyone freaking out? Like, let's just break it down. It's a piece of software that just shows you what post, it just dictates what post shows up in your feed. And I love all the new posts that always seem to come out about Instagram has a new algorithm. This is what matters most. That all that shit is so BS. Do you know how expensive that would be for Instagram to create a brand new algorithm at the frequency that some online marketers believe Instagram is creating quote unquote new algorithms? They have way better things to be doing with their time. What does happen is they update terms of use or policies as things happen, like, terrorist attacks, so that, hate speech, all these things are more tightly regulated. And that can influence how certain posts perform in the algorithm, but has nothing to do with the actual algorithm. So the objective of the Instagram algorithm is to keep people on the app by showing them the best content or what Instagram thinks that you will enjoy the most so that you stay on the app. And there are three main factors that the algorithm is based on, and these are honestly the only things that you have to know when it comes to the current Instagram algorithm. And this has been the algorithm for the last 3 or so years. Yes, things change as like reels get introduced and whatever. But like I said, they're more like small amendments, and it's not like it's a complete overhaul. So the three, what are the words? Three, they're not categories, but like three, what did I call them, Jessica? I literally just called them. I don't know, but the three things, I guess, that you need to think about, or that the algorithm is based on. Sorry that the word's escaping me. But number one is relevancy. So how relevant is this post to this person? Like, have they engaged with other posts like this in the past? Have other people engaged with it? These are things that would signal to Instagram that this is good content. And then therefore might help keep you on the app because other people have engaged with it. So it will probably be relevant to you because other people like you have liked this, basically. So number one, relevancy. Number two is relationship. What kind of relationship do you have with this person? If you notice, if you follow someone, the first time you follow, not the first time, but yeah, when you follow someone and if you don't engage with them, you will literally never see them in your feed because you don't have a relationship with them. And that relationship can be built by watching stories, leaving comments, having DM conversations, just engaging with your posts. And spoiler alert, that's also a sneaky way for how you can hack, quote unquote, hack the Instagram algorithm in your favor is by intentionally building relationships with people, with your ideal clients, so that they will see your content in the algorithm, because Instagram will think that you guys are friends, even though it's mostly a one-sided friendship on your part. But it benefits you in the long run. And that's honestly how I've built a lot of relationships with my ideal clients. And honestly, most of my clients are actually, and like people in my program, are people from my Instagram community who I've engaged with intentionally over time and built intentional relationships with them. And like this stuff really works. And then the last factor here, I guess it's a factor, that would have been a good word, is is it recent? Is how's the time stamp doing, right? So we know Instagram's no longer chronological. That was like the major algorithm update. So there still is an element of recency that like needs to be taken into account. But if your post has good engagement, then it stays in the feed, quote unquote, for a little bit longer. So yeah, but basically having recent posts, like was it posted in the last 3 days? That's probably an indicator as to whether or not it's going to show up in the feed, which is also why we want to be consistent, because that's how we're going to build that relationship. We're going to become more relevant, and then we're also going to have recent content. And that's basically how you create content that converts in any algorithm, because it's not about getting most saves or whatever. It's literally, how do I create content that my audience actually wants to engage with, and how can I do it, on a consistent enough timeline so that like I'm always showing up, and then you can build that relationship with them, because the more you show up, the more they can engage. And that's how you make the algorithm really happy and say, hey, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing on Instagram.
Feels like we're always trying to find, the tricks and all that type of stuff to get our content out there, and to have it go, what's that word when it goes like live?
Viral
And stuff like that. But really it comes down to just creating really good content. Totally. And creating relationships. Those are the fundamentals, right?
Totally. And I know we didn't really talk about that too much here, but to like, if I'm going to leave your audience with anything around this, it's like Instagram really, to do Instagram well, to do Instagram for your business, all you have to do is post content that helps them, that inspires them, that they laugh at, anything that, they can connect with. How do you post that kind of content consistently? And how do you build relationships with people consistently? How do you engage with them? If you do those two things, I swear to you, that's literally all you have to do for like Instagram for business. You don't have to go live if you don't want to. You don't have to do reels. Heck, like if you really don't want to, like there's so many other things you could do, but it really comes down to posting content that you feel really good about, that gets good engagement, and loving up on your people.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah. I know, for Love Unplugged. How's that for a quote?
There you go.
Oh.
All right, so let's talk about your offerings. What do you have available to support your community?
Yeah, so the main way to work with me and to basically learn how to build your own holistic marketing machine is through my program, Holistic Marketing Academy. And that is basically has undergone some serious changes, and we just launched the 2021 curriculum, and I'm so excited. But if you wanted to learn more about Holistic Marketing Academy, or just want to chat with me in general, because I also do have a couple of other exclusive coaching offers for people who are a little bit too advanced for HMA. But the first step to both of those things would be to book a free marketing assessment call with me. I do about 5 a week. I have to put a limit just because we got to pace ourselves. But if you're interested in, chatting with me, learning more about holistic marketing, then we can definitely leave the link for booking one of those free marketing assessments, and then I would love to meet you.
Oh, that's awesome. And I definitely think that everyone listening should definitely check Katie out. Maybe make an appointment to have one of those marketing assessment calls, because the stuff that she just gave us for free is gold, right? So you could just imagine how much help she's going to give you when you work with her one-on-one.
Exactly. And they are totally free and no hard sleazy pitch at the end or anything. So totally, it's a totally like no pressure environment. We'll have a lot of fun. So don't be shy.
Awesome. So if anybody wants to learn more about you and connect with you, where do you hang out the most?
Well, obviously, I hang out on Instagram at The Wellness Marketer. So feel free to check me out there. Please send me a DM. Let me know that you came from this interview. And like I said about the calls, I just love to chat with my community. So Instagram is my place. I also have the podcast, The Wellness Marketer podcast. That's on, I almost said that's on Instagram and Facebook. That is it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but I think it might be on more now. We changed like our host or something. I don't know. I'm not in charge of these things anymore. Now I have someone who does that for me, but we're at least on Spotify and Apple. And if you can't find it there, then you can also find it on my website at thewellnessmarketer.ca for my Canadian babes. And yeah, I have like more fun, free resources. The podcast is obviously free. My website is totally awesome. It's new from end of 2020 and I'm like totally obsessed with it. So you can also go drool over the new website.
It is beautiful. I'll give you that much.
Yeah, Current Design did a great job.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for taking the time to share your journey and for giving us such incredible advice that's definitely going to help us take our marketing strategies to the next level so that we can see results, which is what we're all striving for. So I know many, including myself, really benefited from learning from you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was truly my pleasure.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.